Hi, I'm Kelly Orrico. This is my husband, CJ, and we are the co-founders of Widowed Parent Relief Project, otherwise known as WPRP. Just wanted to share a little bit about how we began. It really started, most of my life I've been a teacher, and I had a massive stroke when I was 39, and that kind of changed my life significantly. I was perfectly healthy person, no warning signs, and was taking my dog out and bent down to get his leash. And when I stood up, I had a really big pain in my head. And I do get migraines, so I thought that's what it was. And the dog's name was Slayer. And I went to bring him in to go get my ibuprofen and my big thing of water and that I normally do with migraines. And I said, "Come on, Slayer." And my speech was slurred. And I tried to bring him in, and he wouldn't come. And I thought he would follow me. He was only a 6-month-old puppy. And so I went in the home and thought he did follow me and eventually got to my couch. And by the time I got there to get my ibuprofen, my whole left side was paralyzed. I couldn't reach over and open up the medicine. And my head was hurting very badly, and I started pouring water all over my head and was very frustrated that I couldn't open up the medicine. And a stranger walked in and said, "I have your dog." And this man lives half a mile from my house. I've never seen him before. And he saw my puppy with his leash on and just sitting at the edge of my driveway as if waiting for him to come. And he had the courage to come in my home and eventually asked me if I wanted to call my husband. And we got a hold of CJ and eventually dialed 911.
As you could imagine, it was the most terrifying phone call I've ever gotten in my life. He took his time telling me the story about how he found my dog on the curb and saw the collar and had the courage to walk in our home because the garage door was open. And as he got through the end of his story, he said, he didn't know Kelly, so he saw her sitting there. Didn't know if she had, other issues or what was happening. And I finally asked, "Do you think she's having a stroke?" And he said, "I do." And at that point, I did yell, "Call 911." We met Kelly at the hospital, and at the time she was kind of blind, paralyzed, and speechless on one full half of her body, and totally disoriented. And as a husband, it's terrifying. You instantly start thinking about what would happen. I had 4 middle-aged kids, 14 and under, and I think the youngest was, I guess, 10, so they were all kind of that middle school fragile age, and I just kept thinking, like, I can't lose my best friend. So yeah, maybe I guess at that point they wheeled Kelly in. There was probably 20 something doctors there all ready to act quickly, and that was the point where I learned from one of the doctors that was there. He actually entered there was like a little holding area for me. I hadn't quite broken down yet, and he came walking in a full suit and said, "Hey, I'm the doctor here. Your wife is having a massive stroke. She has about an hour to live. We have to act quickly. The blockage is so bad, I can't break it up with medicine. I need to go in through her leg and try and pull the clot out of her brain." And I said, "Well, who's the best plumber?" And he said, "I am. I'm the only person in all of Atlanta that could do this procedure. I happen to be here for a board meeting. They called me out of the meeting, but I need you to sign this right now. We need to go fast." And of course, I broke down at that point. Kelly's brother had shown up. I owned a business with him at the time, and we were in a board meeting when I got the call. So he was just a little bit behind me, and I was just terrified. I didn't know what was going to happen. And at that point, they came out to see Kelly, and
I was cracking jokes about Grey's Anatomy.
asking if Dr. Shepard worked at the hospital.
Yes.
And I said, "No, but we got the best." And, I think the toughest decision I made in that whole process, it wasn't to act quickly and save my wife, but I was given the chance to kiss her goodbye outside the operating room. And I didn't take it. I kind of kissed my fingers and touched her head and just looked at the doctor and said, "Go save my wife."
So then, meanwhile, they then wheel away, and I started to feel like I was going to have a panic attack. And the most amazing part of this whole story, there's a bunch of miracles, like series of miracles, but the most amazing one truly is that this was 1 year to date. It was of my mom passing away. And I had my mom, the morning that she died, which was May 3rd, and this actually was May 2nd, I said to my mom, I said, if you can find a way to come back and tell me that you're with me and that you're okay, and all this heaven stuff is for real, then do it. And she said, I promise. And that was really the last conversation I had with my mom that day. And it was also Frankie's birthday, our oldest son. So it was just May 3rd is like a really big day in our family. And here we were. And she was a nurse and was always with me in the hospital. I had never been without my mom. And so as we're reeling away, this panic attack came over me, I felt. And one of the books my mom was reading when she was sick was Jesus Calling. And so I started saying to myself, okay, Jesus calling, Jesus calling, Jesus calling. And this relief and peace came over me. And the other thing my mom kept saying when she was sick was, don't worry, Kel. Ever since this has started, Jesus has been holding my right hand. And so I said, and it's engraved on my mom's tombstone. So I said, okay, Jesus is holding my right hand. Jesus is holding my right hand. Jesus is holding my right hand. And I kid you not, my right hand started to get very warm and I felt like someone was holding it. And truly, it was the only part of my body that worked. My whole left side was paralyzed and cut off and not doing anything. And it was so real that I was certain I was going to look at my hand and see Jesus's hand. And I looked and I saw my mom's. And I just gasped in shock. And the nurse leans down and for the 100th time that day said, are you allergic to anything? And 100 times that day, I said no. CJ had said no when they asked him, and my mom held my hand, and the nurse asked me, and I said, yes, I'm allergic to anesthesia. And those words had never left my mouth. My mom was always the one to tell the doctors. And the nurse, she's allergic to anesthesia. Chaos kind of ensues a little bit in the OR. And I just smiled and knew, I'm like, I'm going to be all right. This is going to be good. And transferred me to the table and kept me awake for the procedure. And at the end of the procedure, sat me up and said, okay, Kelly, raise both your arms. Touch your nose right hand, touch your nose left hand. How many fingers this side? How many fingers this side? And then he said, let's see you smile. And I was very nervous to smile because, again, 100 times that day, I was asked that question. And everyone's reaction was always the same. And I would think, ooh, I didn't do good on that test. Because my face, wasn't smiling on one side. So I let out a little smirk. And he said, let's see your teeth. And I just was like, okay, let it roll. And just let out a big smile. And the whole OR erupted in cheers and claps and hoots and hollers. And that nurse leaned down to me and she said, honey, today was your day. Someone was looking out for you. And I just started weeping. I'm like, it's my mom. And we celebrated Frankie's birthday in the hospital, and me wondering, what is my purpose here? Why am I alive? And how am I going to spend the rest of my days left here on earth? To this day, I feel like a ticking time bomb. But the truth of the matter is we are all ticking time bombs. And I just had the blessing to be able to be aware of that. And so it really kind of tortured me as time went by of what am I supposed to be doing with my time. I know there's more for me. I know I'm supposed to be doing something for God. And the most amazing part of all of this, like with the date, is once we started WPRP, we went to go fill out the 501c3 form, and fear started to attack me. Is this really what you're supposed to be doing? And are you sure you're able to do this? You cry a lot, you sleep, you speak backwards, you say wrong words, like all the effects of the stroke. And then the thought, you're not even a widow. You don't have the right to do this. And it was this like immense pain and fear. And all of a sudden I see a little yellow GIF on my computer because was searching for a code for this form. And it said National Widows Day. And I thought, oh, we could have a fundraising event on that day. When is National Widows Day? And clicked it, and it's May 3rd. And I just lost my mind.
Yeah, and that day, I mean, as Kelly shared, we lost her mom on May 3rd, Frankie's 13th birthday, and the thought of having to tell him on his 14th birthday we lost his mom was terrifying for me. I tell people all the time, it's an amazing experience to live through what was the most devastating day of my life and the most exciting day of my life because of the emotional roller coaster of being told to kiss your wife goodbye and then seeing her come out of an operating room 15 minutes later laughing and telling me a story and perfectly fine. you know, relatively. And it was my job to go home and tell all my kids what had happened. And so I went back to the house and sat on the stoop and waited for them to get off the bus. And we have a super transparent, really good communicative family. And they got off the bus. They weren't even halfway through the yard, and they started running and crying because they knew something was wrong, even though I was just sitting on the front stoop. But it wasn't traditional to see me there, you know, getting them off the bus. And it was sad to tell them what had happened, but it was amazingly relieving to tell them that Mom was going to be okay and that we were going to the hospital right now to go see her. And, you know, we were still going to celebrate Frank's birthday and do the best to make our way through the weekend. And I think Kelly made it back to the house, you know, maybe a day and a half later or so. To be able to walk back into that same home and feel like we were back on track was all the good of it, but there was still just a ton of heartache that I had of living through the trauma and the fear of what would it be like to lose my wife and be a widower. I didn't know how I would go on, and it was amazing, even though Kelly was healthy and back in our home, to witness the community rallying around us. And you know, all four of our kids played travel sports, and Kelly was an Uber driver, and I was, you know, there to help when I could. And to see people just driving my kids' parents I didn't even know or met, stepping up to take our kids to sports or bring meals to our house or plant a tree in our yard or, you know, anything they could do to kind of lift their spirits. And it was that where I realized that, you know, when you hear these stories out there, you oftentimes hear, you know, about GoFundMe's, and it's like, hey, let's help raise this. That's what people know right now. It's kind of trendy. But I always just felt like all it did was give a family that was grieving and heartache money to pay medical bills or things that really didn't relieve stress, really didn't help grieve or eliminate pain. And, you know, as we were living through this, I realized that the part that meant the most to me was that community and that help and that support. And when we, you know, heard of a friend who we hadn't seen since she was a freshman in high school. We were seniors, so we were a few years older. But we knew her family, and she was always a really sweet girl. And she ended up marrying her high school sweetheart like we did. Kelly and I have been together since we were 14. And so we liked her story. And unfortunately, her husband passed away from MDS, the same disease that attacked Kelly's mom. And we had heard about it through a GoFundMe and online. And at the same breath, we heard that the spouse, and now widow, was fighting stage 4 breast cancer herself, and they had 5-year-old twin kids, and just didn't feel like enough. I mean, when you start thinking like, can we give them money or make a donation? It was like, well, give them everything. Like, you know, the heartache was just devastating to me, and we realized this idea to, what if we send cleaning ladies to their home every Friday, just to help, like, clean mind, you know, clean house, clean mind, and let the children worry about being loved on and doing fun stuff on the weekend instead of getting yelled at by mom because they finally can reset and they have to clean the house and pick up all their toys. And wasn't sure if it was going to work, kind of backdoored it through her mom and sister-in-law and set it up, and it was amazing. And I think it was probably part of what led us to really wanting to do this.
Yeah, with her name is Kate. I know she wouldn't mind sharing it. She's our founding parent. CJ said, you really should call Kate. And I said, no way, I can't call her. And he said, why? I'm like, I'll do nothing but cry. I won't know what to say. I'll say the wrong thing. I'm not going to be any good for her. And that's when we have to do something. And when CJ had said the cleaning services and we doing that ongoing, I thought, perfect. That's awesome because we're helping, but I don't actually have to talk to her. Oh, it was so close to home and so emotional. And we went almost a full year of doing that. And meanwhile, I'm torturing myself about what am I supposed to be doing in my life and what is my purpose and how should I be serving God? And I was doing a Bible study, several Bible studies, which was wonderful for me because I had started to sink it truly into a depression, which they say is normal for stroke patients. And one of the Bible studies was the book of James. And chapter 1, verse 22 says, be doers of the word, not hearers only. And I started yelling at God. I'm like, I've been asking you for years what you want me to do, and you're not telling me. And don't tell me I'm a deceiver, and you're not telling me. And just a few weeks later, sadly, our daughters softball coach passed away from COVID, and CJ once again was pacing the floor. And I said, what's wrong? And 2 nights in a row, I said, what's wrong? And he said, I can't stop thinking about the mom. And my heart is for children, being a teacher. And I said, I can't stop thinking about the kid. And I said, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to do cleaning services for them too? I don't know, let me sleep on it. And the very next day, I'm driving and I'm listening to an Audible book. And in the Audible book, it quotes the book of James. And it says, chapter 1, verse 27. And my ears kind of perked up because I definitely remembered 22. And it said, the truest form of religion is to care for orphans and widows in their distress. And chills ran up and down my body. And I thought, CJ's heart is for widows and my heart is for kids. Lord, is this it? And of course, I thought about Kate. And I thought, is there anything out there like this that helps this population, vulnerable population? And I started doing research. And what I found was, one, there's really nothing out there that helps widowed mom and dads with young children in the home, and especially on a tangible level. And two, the research showed that my response to Kate actually is very normal. And it's very sad, but it's very normal. That many people don't know what to say and disengage and back away. And in turn, this young widowed parent loses their friends. They'll lose their support system. The friends are often just too close to home. They don't know what to say. They're afraid of their own mortality. And so they just back away. And meanwhile, they do the normal thing. Meals the first couple of months, maybe two if they're lucky, a GoFundMe or something like that. And then around the second or third month, it's just crickets. It's very, very quiet. And people don't know how to bring it up. They don't know what to say, and so they don't. And meanwhile, the parent, in the first couple of months, doesn't know what they need. Life is insanely chaotic and crazy, and they're in a fog, and their children are grieving, and they're grieving, and they don't know what they need. And the common response is, tell me what I can do. Just let me know. Just let me know. Well, around the third month, things are starting to figure out, like, I know what I need, but how do I even ask it? Who do I ask? And no one's calling. And so there's a need for both ways. There's a need to help widowed families, but there's a need to engage the community, because I know from a community member standpoint that we want to help. Many, many people want to help. When you know someone that's experienced a tragedy, we know that you want to help, and so, but we don't know how. Through the research, I learned that there are 20 to 50 secondary losses that a widow or widower will experience. And so it's no wonder that the community members don't know how to help. It would be like throwing a dart at a wall and just hoping you hit. And so unless we're getting the word out of what the needs are, and they're very unique, the community can't get engaged. And so that is when I called Kate and asked if I could pick her brain and talk to her about some of my ideas, and learned her struggles, and they just aligned so much with what the research said. One of the first things that go out the window, she said, was self-care. The same, her parents are taking care of the kids for the times when she's not. And so, and she had a couple friends to rely on to do that, but when it came to, I would like to go out and spend a little extra time with my friends, or I want to go get my hair cut, and even doctor's appointments, she would forego things because her parents couldn't babysit her. She didn't want to keep asking the same person. And so she wasn't getting that time for herself to take care of herself. And through research, we learned that the number one predictor of how well a child will adjust to the loss of their parent is the functioning level of the surviving spouse, which makes perfect sense when you hear it, of course. And so that self-care is so crucial. And so I said to Kate, I said, well, would it help if we offered babysitting stipends and self-care stipends? And oh my gosh, she's like, yes, because the other thing is you're afraid to spend money on yourself. You don't want to do that. And so it's like, this is saying specifically, take care of yourself so you can take care of your child. And we know that that'll make a difference. Just like the clean home will take care of the mental health. That's scientifically proven that a clean home will alleviate stress. It lowers your cortisol level. Decluttering your home lowers your cortisol level. And so what Widowed Parent Relief Project has done is we've really created two arms to our Widowed Parent Relief Project, WPRP. One is we do offer paid services for regular cleaning services, home organizing, and then the self-care stipends. And we provide this for 1 year. And in that time, we also partner the parent with a family friend volunteer. And the volunteer walks alongside the parent, mom or dad, and stays apprised of the changes and needs that are going on in the family, and then reaches out to the community to say, is there anyone that'd be willing to help clean gutters? We have a deck that needs to be repaired that's unsafe. There's locks on the door that a parent wants to feel safe. Can someone come and help put in lock? I mean, the needs are really a myriad of needs. And we have one mom that said, can we find a male volunteer to come and teach my child how to ride a bike? That's just one example of what some of our family friends do, and they help find these resources, and they provide social and emotional support. So we have through our research, we learned that the main type of support, social support, that is helpful is one that is a variety of types and sources of support that are offered over time. And so we provide informational, emotional, appraisal, and instructional support. And we do that through a different myriad of ways. And it's done really through that family friend finding what those needs are. The emotional support, one of the best things that we've learned is that that helps widowed parents is being able to talk to other widowed parents. We often say that it's the same storm but a different boat. And so being able to talk to other moms or dads that are in that storm and might be able to relate on a level that I know I can't relate on, and the family friend oftentimes can't relate on, because all our family friends are not widows or widowers per se. Some are, but some are not. Being able to offer that community with each other. So we do social events, gatherings of bringing the families together, sometimes just the adults, sometimes with the kids, sometimes with the kids and the family friends. We have a babysitter and driver program, and that's been really helpful to bring our babysitters to the event to help with the kids, but also have a list of people that our parents can call and vet themselves, but we do some vetting, background checks and things like that, of course, to get on that list. And so these events and help the parents get together. We have a group me that they can chat on as well privately, and then we have an organizational group me that we share a bunch of resources that are offered throughout the community, as well as what businesses can you trust? So we have learned that many, especially women, it's just a thing with women that we feel vulnerable in general with our cars and our homes. Stereotypical, not all women feel that way, but many do. And so being able to say this is a reliable company that you can trust, that has good character, good reviews, and they have a heart for what you're going through and want to help. And so we have trusted vendors and referrals that we offer to our parents as well to say you can call. Some offer pro bono or discounted, and some are normal, but we know that they're trustworthy people. So we love to engage the community in all kinds of ways. We know that people want to help and have loving hearts.
I think those are all great examples of how important it is as we continue to grow WPRP, that the community continues to rally. I took it upon myself just to have the experience and understand truly what Kelly and her team were working so hard to do, and became a family friend myself to one of our parents. And just to see the journey and all the needs and ways that you can help make a difference and rally. But I think I really saw it from this side as well of how much more support we need. And it'll be 2 years this May 3rd. We've helped over 20 families, and so much of that has come from people in the community stepping up to be these family friends, business owners stepping up to, make donations or help provide services. And I think that's a really important part of what we continue to grow so that we can help more and more families. Or seems like, sure it's not, but seems like weekly we're getting, some kind of request for some family who could use some help and needing that support group. And so as people in the community their hearts are called to volunteer or be involved, I will say that, Kelly and I moved here about 6 years ago, and we weren't really sure why. There was just something calling us to the Knoxville community, and Kelly kept saying it was as if God was putting his hand out and pulling us here. And when we sat 2 years ago, May 3rd, at a local little room here at a nearby golf course, and saw probably 100+ people fill that room and rally and cut checks and step up and ask how can they help and form a board and do all the things that we were doing. We realized why we were supposed to be here. It's just been amazing, the financial support that we've had since we've started and the emotional support that we've had, and a working board, a group of volunteers that are grinding out sometimes in times like this when we are approaching our big event here on April 14th, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week as volunteers, just to make this all work and make this all click. So I know our dream and aspiration is for this to be national and even maybe worldwide someday. This need is not unique to the Knoxville market. It exists everywhere, and we want to figure out a way to scale it and open up new markets and grow. But for the time being, what we've witnessed here in this community is just, I dream and hope that it's something we can emulate, and that there's all these good people like there are in Knoxville are all over the country wanting to help these families.
We know why they call Knoxville people volunteers. So, and 3 of our kids go to UT, so we are strong Vol fans. But truly, we've been overwhelmed with that, and we can't do it without the funding. Because we do pay for the cleaning services and the babysitting stipends. Home organizing, sometimes we pay for, sometimes we have pro bono offered, which is great. But there is a financial component that is needed to support this enduring support, this year long. I mean, it's cleaning services for a year. And so the funding is super crucial. And then, of course, the volunteers being able to come alongside and help. We're all volunteers. We're a volunteer-run organization. So we rely on help to run the company. And we're just very, very grateful for all of the people that have stepped up and are helping our mission right now. So
And I think the last people we'd want to give thanks to are the families who have welcomed us into their homes and into their lives. And many of them have come back to now be ambassadors and try to help us grow and help our mission and share their stories, which is probably the most vulnerable thing a person can do. And I just want to thank them. I know that at times this isn't very easy, and letting people in to help is hard, and they've done that, and I think we've met some of the most amazing and inspirational families you could ever imagine.
yes, and many of them, some of them have graciously offered to share their testimony with us, and we'd like to share some of those stories with you now.
Thank you.